Okay, I want to welcome all of you to this another session on answers to curious and open minds. We started this series some time ago, and if I'm not mistaken, this is the eighth session and the final session we planned initially. How we started is we started with worldviews. We went into logic and fallacies, creator, who is and how can I know God, humanity. Is Jesus really God? Is the Bible true? And last time we were looking at this whole topic of faith. Can faith be reasonable? And today we are going to focus on religions, especially some major world religions. So a reminder that a blog post with a write up about all these topics, as well as Zoom, basically the recording of all these sessions is available on YouTube. So if you click further, you can find it. So all these sessions are there. So with that, let me get into today's topic, which is about religions. Now, the question now comes up is, okay, why do we need to talk about religions, especially if you are a believer, if you are a Christian? Why does it matter that we should learn about other religions? Number one, it increases our awareness about global faiths. Then it also recognizes shared values and critical differences, because if you are trying to share the gospel with someone, or if you're trying to share your faith, it is also important that you have some understanding of what other person's faith background is, because that really helps us to um, look and understand what they are trying to say. And it also helps us with a lot of, good discussions and engagements. And then it will also equip us to engage respectfully and knowledgeably. What does it mean? Sometimes if we are ignorant, we will not be able to ask good questions, right questions, will not be able to understand. So these are very critical why we need to look at from that perspective. And also, rather than going deep into one religion, how we are going to tackle it today is we are going to look at five major religions, and we will look at what are their beliefs, what are their practices, and then we will also get into what are the challenges which normally is attributed to that religion. Because as you all are well aware that every religion is accused of something which is not right, and then all those things. There is no perfect religion, including Christianity. There are some oppositions. We will look into that, some major ones. So with that, how we are going to tackle this is we are going to use a framework for studying this. We could have done it in different ways, but this framework is we will look at from five lenses. One is the theology. Theology basically means a study about God, right? So that's basically beliefs about the divine. What do they believe? How do they see God? If you remember the first session we started, which was the worldviews, that we looked at how there are polytheistic, pantheistic, different types of worldviews. So these religions, now when we are getting into the main religions, we need to look at the beliefs about that. Then it's the anthropology. Anthropology is how do they view humanity? Like, for example, Christianity would teach us that every man born is a sinner. But there are other religions who say, no, that's not the way it is. Everyone born is not a sinner, but by doing sin, you become a sinner. So we need to look at from that lens, because if somebody is coming from that viewpoint, it's a totally different landscape from where they may be coming. So that's third is cosmology, is understanding the world. How do they see the world? Right? So that's very important that we understand what's their viewpoint about it. And soteriology is talking about salvation or liberation. How does this religion provide salvation or liberation to the people who are followers of that religion? And of course, the practice, rituals, ethics, worship, what are the things they practice, what are the things they do? So we are basically going to look at from these lens. And again, I repeat, theology, anthropology, cosmology, soteriology, and practice. So beliefs, view about humanity, because that is very critical. understanding of the world, how world was created, what is happening in the world, and then of course salvation, liberation, moksha or mukti. These are all words which have been used. And then of course, what are their how do they practice their religion? So with that, let's get into Hinduism. Hinduism, many of you on this meeting should know about a lot about it, because Hinduism is a predominant religion in India, and we all know about some of those things. I don't want to get into the background of it. But the only Hindu nation in the world is not India, by the way, it's Nepal, right? So Hinduism is beyond, and Hinduism has gained a lot of roots in other countries too. And even in US, if you see, there are big temples built by people who have come maybe from India and other places, and that is going on. So what are their main beliefs? They believe in Brahman, the ultimate formless eternal reality. Then they believe in Atma, right? So soul or true self identical with Brahman. Then they believe in karma, right? What you do, moral law of cause and effect. Then they believe in reincarnation. So again, let me tell you, Hinduism has got I don't know how many millions of gods. There are many. Sometimes people may even call Hinduism is not actually a religion; it's a way of life. And sometimes we go into the debate of everybody born in India is a Hindu, because Hindu, the name comes from the fact that the land was called as Hindu land. So there are a lot of debates about it, but I'm not going to get into that. But right now, so reincarnation is a big thing in generally in Hinduism. Basically it talks about the cycles of birth, death, and rebirth. So basically, how this goes is there is a belief that if you do good in this life, you will get into a better life cycle. What does that mean? Like say, if you do bad, you will become a rat or some animal, but with the ultimate goal of becoming or getting into the Brahman, or those things. Then regarding moksha, there is a thought that there is a liberation from the cycles of lives, right? It's through reincarnation. That's their ultimate deliverance. Samsara, right? What does mean is this reincarnation is what will liberate them, at the end of the day. So that's why those who are very serious about Hinduism will try to do good things, and they will try to do all puja and all those things in a very, very intentionally and very good, just like they will be very strong believers who will lead a good life with this hope that after certain cycles of reincarnation, they will have the moksha or they will get the liberation. And then finally they will be merged into the Brahman, or that's a popular belief there. So the sacred texts are Vedas, Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita. We have heard about it, and these are from where they inspire, and they have. So when it comes to practices, yoga is more famous. Then, of course, yoga is not practiced by every Hindu, but it is something which has got some mystical relation to that. That's why we discourage Christians or people of God from doing yoga in the true sense, not the exercise, but it is all about emptying your mind and being joined to the creation, and there is a lot of concepts underneath that, which we believe is actually counter to what Bible teaches. Bible doesn't talk about emptying your mind and things like that. That itself is a huge topic to deal with. So yoga, meditation, puja, like the worship, festivals. They have a lot of festivals like Diwali, Holi, celebrating Dasera is another festival. So they have all these different things. And as I said, this is coming from the mainstream of Hinduism, not all the things. There could be many practices. Even now, there are sacrifices part of their puja in many places. If you go into even different states in India, you will find there are many practices which are sometimes sound strange, like somebody the child sacrifice. And if you look at that, like sati and other practices which were are abolished later, they had something to do with the general Hinduism practices, where a wife, when the husband dies, would be thrown into the fire, and all those things. Now, when somebody is looking at Hinduism, what are the things they would oppose? So they will oppose the caste system. They will say caste system is bringing social inequality, and that is linked to the religious doctrine. So we all know that Brahmin, Kshatriyas, and all these different type of people, and in that also there were systems. Now it has been it is not that much, but still we all know that that played a big role in how people associated. The higher caste will not associate with lower caste, and all those things, right? And this was very much prevalent in most of the places. I don't think we have completely come out of it, and even this is a problem even when people come to Jesus and they become Christians also. Still, that caste system sometimes carries, and that it continues. I know of churches where back in India where it will be mostly people of one caste, and they should not be like that. But I'm just bringing another aspect. So it is very strong. Idol worship, right? That is absolutely criticized by monotheistic faiths. So that's another problem. Idols made by humans are worshipped. So that's another problem. Then another problem is the philosophical pluralism. What does it mean? Relativistic by exclusivist traditions. So there is a lot of things going on there from a philosophical standpoint, right? And then as I said, if you go from one place to another, there will be different traditions. So what happens is there is so if you say that, okay, define to me, and I am just giving introduction, and maybe let's take two Hindu brothers from two different states or two different places. So there may be big differences in how they are viewing this, right? So it's not bad, but that's the way it is being built out, right? So there will be differences in that. So again, we all have some background to that. We are not experts in it, but at the high level, these are the things we should actually remember about Hinduism. The second major religion we want to bring up is, of course, Buddhism. Buddhism's main beliefs is, of course, it was came after the Buddha, but it made a lot of good grounds in many countries. There are many countries like Sri Lanka. If you go to Tibet, Nepal, Bhutan, and then many of the Asian countries, Buddhism has gained a lot of a lot of people who follow this way. So there are four noble truths according to Buddhism. Life is suffering. Suffering is caused by desire. Ending desires end suffering. Follow the eightfold path. So they have something like this. Anathamam is no permanent self or soul. So they don't have that concept. Karma and rebirth. They will say that ethical causality continues through no self is reborn. So that's why they don't believe in reincarnation the way the Hinduism would believe. So these are some subtle differences. So then from a salvation perspective, they call us a nirvana. They call us liberation from suffering, and rebirth is what is the goal of a person, that they don't want to be reborn again, neither, and they want to be liberated from suffering. So that's what they are looking for. So when it comes to practices, they have a lot of meditations, monasticism, that a lot of Buddhist monks are there. They are famous for that. Mindfulness, chanting. I have visited Buddhist temples. And then there are also some practices which maybe, I don't know whether it's very common, but They worship ancestral spirits. If somebody dies, they will hang something in front of their house for a long time, believing that their spirit will reside in that and things of that nature. They have some sacred text, Tripitaka, then Mahayana Sutras. So these are some of the things. They have big temples in many places. A lot of things going on. I have visited in Cambodia, Myanmar, many places, some of their places, and it has got a lot of traditions and a lot of things going on in their religion. So, what are some of the oppositions about Buddhism? Number one, it's a no theism. So, there is no creator God, which contrasts with theistic traditions. Doctrine of no self, opposed by Hindus and Christian views, right? There is no doctrine. So, rejection of caste, socially progressive but controversial in India. So, Buddhism removed that. So, that's one of the reasons why Buddhism got a lot of traction is also it came later than Hinduism. So, it rejects the caste, right? So, that is not acceptable by many people, especially somebody if is coming. But still, in general, it is seen as non-threatening to Hinduism, more compatible with Hinduism. It is seen like that, just like Sikhism or some of the Eastern religions. So, if you have heard about this, there is another divide between what is considered as an Eastern religion versus Western religion versus Middle Eastern religion. So they consider Christianity as a Western religion, but the truth is Jesus was not born in the West; he was in the Middle East, or that area. But still, a lot of people consider Christianity as a Western religion. But when it comes to Eastern religion, I think there is understanding that they are more compatible. I don't know whether you have heard this. There are a lot of people who would say we don't want foreign religions here, but we are okay with all our Eastern religions. Jainism, Buddhism, Sikhism. All those things they are acceptable, right? They don't have a problem. You will hardly see that Hindu persecuting or some of those fanatical the radical people going and beating up Buddhist people like you see in with Christianity or even Islam, right? That's not so. That is one of the reason why they would accept that, because they would say this religion originated from our own country, so that's fine. So that brings us to Judaism. Some of the key things in Judaism is that it is considered as a monotheistic. When we did the worldviews, I said about monotheistic religions. I said there are three actually monotheistic religion, but Christianity has a Trinitarian theism. We will get to that. But Judaism is, of course, it's a monotheism, one personal covenantal God, Yahweh. So, and they follow the Torah, God's law. We all know about it. The Old Testament we have in the Bible. Their covenant is that God has a special relationship with Israel, which originated from the time of Abraham, and it continued to Isaac, Jacob, and the descendants. And they don't believe that the Messiah has already come. So they are waiting for the Messiah still. Like Jesus came, Christianity would believe that Jesus was the Messiah who came to save the world. But the Judaism teaches no, when Messiah comes, he will restore everything. So that's why they are waiting, right? So you hear about all these things going on where someday you will hear a news that, they found red heifer, they found the temple, every material needed for rebuilding the temple for the third time is already, and there is a lot of prophetical things said along with that. That's all has to do with the fact that, actually Judaism is not looking for Antichrist and Jesus Christ to come back like a Christian would view, but they will be looking at their Messiah to come to restore Israel. And even if during the time of Jesus Christ, they thought that he is going to establish that political kingdom. So they are looking more from a political standpoint that their land as the nation will be established. Because if you really take out the New Testament and just look at from an Old Testament perspective, that is where all the prophets, all the books are pointing towards the future coming of an anointed one or the Messiah, which was fulfilled through Jesus Christ. But Judaism will say Jesus was not the one, and they would dismiss that. So they have different practices. We all know about it: Sabbath, kosher law, circumcision, prayer, festivals, Passover, Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur came later because, all these things which we find in the book of Leviticus, Exodus, all these God's given commandments, they still follow that. The sacred text is called as Tanakh, which is the Hebrew Bible and Talmud. These will have all our 39 books. And then, of course, they have other writings too, which they follow, not follow, they refer to. Now, what are the opposition and critiques to Judaism? That's number one problem, which we already discussed, is the messianic unfulfillment. So this is absolutely disputed by Christians who claim Jesus Messiah. So all the ministries which are in Israel today, if you really look at it, their focus is on telling the people that, hey, the Messiah you're waiting has already come, and he's going to come back again. So that's why their focus will be that. So if you are doing ministry in India or among Israel or among different, so there is a big difference between what's the worldview, because your approach is all based on the worldview they are holding on to. So for them, it's still Messiah has to come. Legalism is another problem, which so even in Jewish religion, there are very conservative Jews, and then there are liberal Jews. There are different groups, and during the time of Jesus only, we know that there were Pharisees, Sadducees, and all those people. And at that time itself, there was a big debate. One of the primary problem was Pharisees believed in the resurrection and life after death, but Sadducees did not believe that. They said life ends there. So there was a division at that time. But then even now, some would say that Judaism is overly focused on following the law and everything. Then one more problem is they think or we all know that it is sometimes misunderstood as ethnic superiority. They have more closeness to God, exclusively the covenant and the promise. And Bible is not denying that fact. Actually, Bible is saying that they are a special chosen people. But at the same time, through Jesus Christ, that fulfillment, that window or that door of salvation or acceptance as children of God was opened up for anyone who accepts Jesus Christ. So, but a Jewish person will still think, and that is the reason why there is a lot of rift and problems going on against. We know what's happening today, and it cannot be tied to one problem or just one issue. It's a issue which is going on for centuries and centuries, thousands and thousands of years, right from the time God takes his people and gives them the land of Canaan. At that time, the war starts, then it goes on, right? And then they go into captivity, they come back, rebuild, and then a point came where Israel did not exist on the map. There was no nation called as Israel. It was basically people who were spread across different countries at some point of time before they got independence. And the nation was, Israel was formed. And even at that time, there were some discussions about putting Israel in some other part of the world and all those things. But now they ended up being there. And now we know that, everybody is actually opposing them. Still, somehow they are surviving. If you look at the map, Israel is such a small nation, and they are not some nation with a lot of people, or like compared to some of the other countries, but still you will see that they are actually doing really well for all the attacks they are having. And people would say that's because God is still protecting them, right? And that's what we can also believe, because their intelligence, their military power, their technology, the inventions they have done, It is marvelous, and then it is like, they stand out in a lot of those areas. So that's a covenantal relationship. But Judaism, uh, they do not believe in the messianic fulfillment like Christ was the Messiah. So that's a challenge there. With that, let's get into Islam. A lot of things need to be told about this, but again, let's look at a high level. So there, first of all, they believe in absolute oneness of God. That's Allah, like Tawheed. So then they believe in prophethood, and they would say there were many prophets. But Muhammad is the final prophet, and they would accept Jesus and Moses. They respect them as prophets. So why are they not following the Bible or what Jesus told, or compared to what Muhammad or what does the Quran says? Because they believe like what Muhammad got was the final and the perfect revelation. So there is a lot of challenges in accepting that factor. That's the biggest problem. Shahada, faith, their prayer, salah, zakat, the charity, their psalm is the fasting, hajj, they have to go to pilgrimage, the five pillars of Islam, right? Their faith, the prayer, and we all know that they pray, wherever they are at the right time. And so all these things are there. But some of the problems, I'll get to that, but so they have their practices are they have daily prayer, they have Ramadan fasting, halal laws, modesty. But again, just like I said, was saying about Judaism, and even when I go to Christianity, we'll talk about that. They also have extreme and they also have moderate. When I say moderate, means progressive Muslims who would not be like, of course, I am sure when we grew up, we might have, friends or people in the school. We never saw them as any threat. They were like very, very nice people. So there are people like that. But at the same time, we all know that there are also people who have a very extremist view, and they want to spread Islam all over the world. So they have a very brutal way of doing it. And they, even in Africa, I'm just saying that because I know about it. They are trying to conquer many places, and if you don't accept the consequences, is very bad. Um, One of the thing is, Bible does not permit. When we say about Bible, I'm talking about the New Testament, which is the revelation through which came through Jesus Christ. It doesn't permit us to use violence or any other means to win anybody to or bring anybody to faith. There is nothing called as we make some people captive and make them Christians. It might have happened in history, but we all know that that's absolutely doesn't work, because that's not what Christianity or the Bible teaches. But in Islam, there is a thing where by any means you can do it. You can lie to win anybody. And there are some references which talks about kill, um, you know, Jews, kill Christians type of a thing. So if you go into a deep study of it, you will find it. And then you can lie and you can deceive somebody to fulfill the purpose of spreading. So that is why it's a little dangerous in the sense like you never know. Of course, the sacred texts are Quran and Hadith. And now let's talk about what are the problems. There are many problems, but just three main views about Jesus. They will never accept that Jesus was divine, which is absolutely so. They will not say Jesus is God. Jesus was a prophet, right? And Jesus' revelation is not the final, because what Muhammad got was the final revelation. Then they have the Sharia law. It is criticized for legal rigidity and harsh punishments wherever it is there. One good thing is there is no crime rate. And then it's a we hear about sanctuary cities. Even in US, they want to build sanctuary cities where they want to have everything run through Sharia, like this law. In UK, there are many places where they have made their locality under this law. So the law of the country or the law of the land is no more valid. So if there is an issue there, they will follow this law, which is very strict in killing people. And this is the reason why, if anybody, like for example, in Pakistan, if somebody is caught, maybe with false accusation, they're gone. Like, they will get capital punishment, because it is very strict. So anything you say, any blasphemy or anything wrong you say, you can be killed for that purpose. So that's why, um, even if you look at from different countries to country, there are some countries where it's very strict, compared to some other countries where there is a little bit of a leniency. For example, Saudi Arabia used to be very, very strict country, but now it has opened up itself, right? So that's a big change you can see. And then, of course, one thing definitely everybody will oppose is this concept of jihad. It is misinterpreted or misused by extremists. So they will say that, you'll get Jannat, or, I don't know, virgins will be waiting for you when become a jihadi, when you die, and then you will have all good happening once you die. So a lot of things to be said about it, but at the high level, this is where the problem stems from. So that brings us to Christianity. Let's look at Christianity too. So Christianity is a monotheistic religion, but it's a Trinitarian theism. I said that. So they, when I said they means because it's a very neutral presentation, I'm going to present it as a third party first before I come on my own things. Trinity, one God in three person, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. So incarnation, Jesus is God in human flesh, which many people will be having challenge in accepting. And then salvation by grace through faith in Jesus, atoning death and resurrection. That's the method of salvation. I don't want to spend time because we all know about it. And of course, Bible is the authoritative word. Of course, that's what Christians would believe. Practices baptism, communion, prayer, worship, sacraments. For us, baptism and Holy Communion are the two sacraments we have. But there are, if it's a Catholic, they have 7 sacraments. So different denominations, different groups may have some variations, but main practices are these. Of course, the Old and the New Testament forms the full Bible. Now, what are the problems which people typically raise about Christianity, especially if you're talking to Muslims or Jews? So they will say that, hey, what is your Trinity? So Trinity, they will say it's polytheistic because you have more than one God. So they will not accept the fact that, how we see Trinity is one God in 3 persons, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. They would say, okay, that means you have a Father is a God, Son is a God, Holy Spirit is a God. So that is it can get into a lot of confusing thing. But we can study about Trinity, how it is one God in 3 persons. Exclusivity. So that is another problem. There are many religions in this world who will say that every road leads to Rome. So basically what they say is, every religion is a way of life, and you get into anything, and you can still reach, everybody will still reach the same destination. But Christianity has a claim saying, no, Jesus is the only way to salvation. That's purely coming from the Bible itself, and also through how Jesus taught and what's the worldview of a Christian, or the faith itself. Bible says there is no other name given for the salvation of humans except Jesus, through Jesus Christ. So that's a exclusivity aspect. Then, of course, some people will also raise this issue of church divisions. They would say, when you have, walk on a street in some places, there is a Lutheran church, there is a Catholic church, there is a Methodist church, there is a Presbyterian church, there is a Pentecostal church, maybe there is a Baptist church, there is a Seventh-day Adventist, you name it, right? And then they would say, hey, you all follow one Bible and one, that you still cannot have consistency. So they would say there is inconsistency and with the message of unity, right? Because you are saying, we need to be unified and all those stuff, but there is still a lot of divisions which can be answered, but that's a main opposing viewpoints which will bring against Christianity. With that, let's look at all these things together, right? So the theme, when it comes to God, Hinduism is a polytheistic or And then Buddhism, non-theistic. There is no concept of real God. Monotheistic is Judaism. Christianity is Trinitarian monotheism. Islam is strict monotheism. They will not allow it. That's the problem. They cannot tolerate any of those things. And that's one of the reason why there is big tension between Hinduism and Muslim, because it's a two opposing viewpoint, even at the point of who God is or how God is. Now, salvation, moksha, nirvana, Messiah, obedience, grace, faith, obedience, and faith. That's it goes. Of course, divine self when it comes to, and then Buddhism, no permanent self. You're no tension about eternity. Created good. So this is where things are different, right? That please note that one from the human nature. Judaism will say you are created good but flawed, of course, due to sin. Christianity will say we are fallen but redeemable through Jesus Christ. But Islam says you are born pure, inclined towards good, but then all the bad things of the world is where you get bad. So that's how they will view it. Of course, we all know about the sacred text. Everybody has their sacred text. So now, life after death, how does it matter? Hinduism believes in rebirth. So if you are telling, where will you go after your death? A classical question you may ask somebody. They would say, yeah, depending on how a person behaved and what his lifestyle was, we may be born again into, I don't know, whatever. Like they would say rebirth. Buddhism would say, yeah, if you reach nirvana or, ultimate thing, you will not have a rebirth, but otherwise you'll have a rebirth. Judaism will say there will be a resurrection because they believe in that, and then they will believe in the Seol. And then, of course, Christianity, heaven and hell and judgment. And then, of course, Islam will also go the same way. There is a heaven and hell. If you are, somebody who doesn't believe in the faith, you will go to hell. But if you believe, and or maybe if you, become a jihadi, or if you become a martyr, or, all those things, you can go to heaven. So that's the big difference between all these main religions. Now, what this means is for us is, okay, this is a high level. What we can do is we should have enough knowledge about where the worldview is coming from. For example, if I'm asking a Buddhist person, hey, what is going to happen to you if you die? That may not be a good question. Like it's a good question, but how they view it, it may not be the question which may hit somebody from a Hinduism perspective. They would say, even though they believe in rebirth, incarnation, but the problem is that you can challenge them to think more about it. Now, the issue with the monotheistic religion would be like they don't have any idols. They don't do any of those things which exist in other Eastern religions. So you can say, hey, these are handmade things and it is made by hands, it's paganistic origin, all those things you can say. But for them, there may not be anything. So as you get into more religion, sometimes you will say there is more similarity and more contrasting differences, how they view things, deal with it. But the goal here is to have that basic understanding so that we will be able to deal with people who come and have, as we said in the beginning, have a very meaningful, respectful, and knowledgeable conversation with people, and recognize the shared values and critical differences. And then, of course, we can also have a good viewpoint about the global faiths, which is existing. Of course, this is not everything. There are way more than this, but these are the 5 major ones. I hope it was insightful and a blessing. What I'm going to do now is I will stop the recording and then we will go into the Q&A session. So give me 1 second.